What if humans could breathe underwater? Imagine standing on the shore of the ocean, taking a deep breath, and instead of drowning when you dive in, your body simply extracts oxygen from the water. Suddenly, the impossible becomes possible, humans breathing underwater, just like fish. But what would this mean for our biology, our cities, our technology, and even our future as a species? Let's dive deep into this thought experiment. At the most basic level, breathing underwater means extracting oxygen from liquid instead of air. Fish do this with gills. Gills are specialized organs with thin membranes that absorb dissolved oxygen as water flows across them. Human lungs, by contrast, are built for air. Our alveoli are designed to exchange gases in a lightweight, oxygen-rich atmosphere. Water contains far less oxygen than air, about 1/30th as much. For us to breathe underwater, we would need either gills, radically different lungs, or a new kind of bioengineering that transforms the way our bodies use oxygen. Now imagine that evolution had given us this ability. Picture yourself with slits along your neck, drawing water in and filtering oxygen just like a fish. Every swim in the ocean would be effortless. Diving into a lake would feel like walking into fresh air. But this ability would reshape everything about human history and civilization. First, consider exploration. Most of our planet, more than 70%, is covered in oceans, yet we've explored less than 5% of them. If humans could breathe underwater, the oceans would be as accessible as land. Vast coral reefs, deep trenches, and underwater caves would no longer be alien worlds. We could live, work, and build communities beneath the waves. Imagine underwater cities, lit with glowing bioluminescence, where people swim instead of walk. Transportation would also change. Boats might be less necessary, replaced by direct underwater travel. Humans could swim across rivers or even short stretches of ocean, powered by their own endurance. Trade routes might form beneath the seas, with highways of human swimmers moving goods in waterproof containers. The oceans would no longer be barriers but highways. But let's think about biology again. Breathing water is not easy. Fish expend enormous energy to extract enough oxygen. Humans with gills would need bigger chests, stronger hearts, and a metabolism adapted to lower oxygen levels. We might evolve slower lifestyles underwater, conserving energy like marine mammals. Our voices would change too. Sound travels differently in water, so instead of speech, perhaps we would communicate with low-frequency hums, whistles, or bioluminescent signals. Culture itself might become visual and musical rather than spoken. Now picture sports and entertainment. Swimming would be universal. Children might play ball games at the bottom of the pool. Athletes could race through underwater obstacle courses. Tourism would explode. Underwater resorts in the Caribbean, with guests free diving into coral palaces. Movies might feature entirely underwater action scenes with no need for air tanks. Even art would change. Imagine paintings illuminated by shafts of sunlight streaming through the ocean surface. But survival would not be all fun. Oceans are filled with dangers, predators like sharks, extreme cold, crushing pressure in the deep. Breathing underwater wouldn't protect us from these. Humans would still need technology to explore the abyssal depths. Specialized submarines or armored suits would evolve into everyday tools, just as airplanes became normal for air travel. Food, however, would be revolutionized. Access to oceans would make seafood the staple diet. Farming might shift underwater, with kelp forests cultivated like wheat fields. Domestication of sea creatures could become common, underwater herding of fish like we herd cattle. Agriculture on land might shrink, while aquaculture boomed. Now think about history. Wars would be fought not only on land and in the air, but also in the oceans. Ancient civilizations might have used underwater armies. Naval battles would look entirely different if soldiers could simply swim beneath ships and attack from below. The very shape of nations could change, with underwater territories and borders across seabeds. Treaties would not only divide land but also the oceans. Let's not forget medicine. Our bodies are not designed to handle water pressure for long. Even if we could breathe underwater, diving deep without decompression would still cause problems like nitrogen narcosis and the bends. For underwater humans to thrive, our physiology would need to adapt. Perhaps we would evolve denser bones, more flexible lungs, and even special proteins to resist pressure damage. Future medicine might focus on helping humans survive at depths of thousands of meters. Technology would also evolve differently. Instead of airplanes, we might have developed underwater gliders. Instead of cars, perhaps schools of mechanical fish for transport. Cities might be domes on the ocean floor, with tunnels linking them. Electricity might be generated directly from ocean currents, powering a civilization that grew beneath the waves instead of above. Culture, too, would reflect our aquatic lives. Religions might worship ocean gods more deeply than they did historically. Myths of sea creatures would be everyday experiences. Architecture would echo coral reefs instead of mountains. Music, instead of strings and drums, might use whale-like songs carried through water. Our entire sense of beauty might be shaped by the colors of the ocean, the play of light through waves, and the silence of the deep. But there would also be consequences. Pollution would no longer just poison water from a distance, it would poison our lungs directly. Human industry would have to adapt to protect the very oceans that sustain us. Oil spills, plastic waste, and toxic chemicals would be lethal in new ways. Perhaps this would push humanity to live more sustainably, learning early the value of protecting ecosystems. And what about space exploration? If humans lived underwater, our first colonies might not have been on the moon, but in the oceans of Europa or Enceladus, moons of Jupiter and Saturn with vast underground seas. Breathing underwater might have pushed us to seek life in cosmic oceans instead of deserts of rock. Perhaps our destiny as a species would be tied to the water worlds of the galaxy. Still, we must ask, is this possible even with technology? Scientists have experimented with liquid breathing, where humans breathe oxygen-rich liquids instead of air. In theory, this could allow divers to survive extreme depths. But the technology is not ready. Our bodies are simply too efficient at air breathing to switch. Yet one day, genetic engineering or advanced biotechnology might make it possible to give humans gill-like organs. What evolution never gave us, science might. So what if humans could breathe underwater? Our world would be unrecognizable. Civilizations would rise beneath the waves. Cultures, economies, and politics would be rewritten. The oceans, once feared, would be home. And yet, the dangers of pressure, predators, and pollution would still test us. The ocean covers most of our planet, yet we treat it as an alien frontier. Imagining a world where humans belong to both land and sea reminds us of how little we know, and how much potential lies beneath the surface. Breathing underwater may remain a dream, but dreams drive science forward. And one day, humans may truly dive into the ocean without fear, lungs filling with water that feels just like air. Subscribe to Why and How, and let's keep exploring the science of the impossible.